day. My name is Charles, and this is a house. Think of your perfect house. What would you include? What could you live without? When the English come to Jamestown in 1607, they bring their culture with them. Language, clothing, along with building styles. And what you see behind me is a very typical English house of this time period, specifically a farmhouse from southeast England. This specific house is based on an archaeological dig in Virginia, a site known as Jordan's Journey, which was just about 15 miles away from Jamestown. Now this structure is just what's known as a timber-framed wattle and daub structure. Timber-framed refers to the beams and posts that form the load-bearing structure of the house. Daub is the infill that goes between the posts. On this house, we see the daub is made of mud, straw, and clay. It could vary. In a better-off house, you could see brick as the infill between the posts. Now, most settlers in Virginia at this time were indentured servants. They signed a 7-year contract to work for the Virginia Company of London. In return for their labor, they would be compensated with food, clothing, and shelter. Let's look inside and see where you might be living in early Virginia. Welcome to the parlor side of the house. In England, houses like this would have very defined spaces. The hall, which we'll go into a moment, is the middle of the house. And on the wings, we would have the service side and the parlor side. In England, this would be a more intimate side of the house for family, servants, and close friends. In Virginia, though, we see a little different setup. This room has been set up to sleep multiple colonists. And so when you get here, that might be a change for you. There would be a lack of privacy with you sleeping in a room with different people. In England, most people were used to this. You would sleep in a room with your family, your servants, and other close family members. But in Virginia, things are a little different. You would be sleeping with people you hardly knew. Now, if we look at these beds, a lot of them are improvised. We see chests with just boards thrown across and straw mattresses. You can also see how dark these houses are. It might be a little different compared to your house at home. I'll open the shutter to let in a little light. So that's a little better, but we can still see it's pretty dark. If we look closely, we can see on this bed, one colonist has left behind his clothing. This is part of your compensation as well. We see a suit of clothes, doublet and breeches. Another couple things to note in this house is the restroom. Here we see a chamber pot. Oh, we might not want to get too close to that. Now, let's head to the hall and see the main space of the house. Welcome to the hall. In England, this is the main public space of the house. You could entertain company, dine here, do indoor chores, and many other activities. In Virginia, it would have many of the same purposes. Behind me, you can see the large fireplace. This could provide heat, but more importantly, you could use it for cooking. We can see a variety of cooking tools and implements behind us. Gridirons to grill and roast meat, hooks and pots to cook things at a variety of temperatures. Remember, as a colonist, food is a third part of your compensation. And we see times are good. There is a little food in the colony. I hope you like bread, because bread is a huge staple of the English diet. Colonists are ideally hoping to eat about a pound of bread a day. At times, though, you're not going to get that much food. We also see we do have some meat as well, a pottage made with pork. Pork was a huge food source for the early colonists. Just across the river, Hog Island was where they let their hogs run wild. Now in this hall, we see some changes from the earlier 1500s. Chimneys are a huge change. Where earlier British people would have simply a fire in the center of their house, by the late 1500s, most people have chimneys in their houses. That makes your house a lot less smoky. We also see a change with the eating ware. For most of the 1500s, most people are eating off trainware, wooden plates. But as you get into the later 1500s, pewter becomes much more common. We can see this pewter spoon. Well-off middle-class people could start eating and drinking out of pewter vessels. Finally, we see a good cup of English beer or ale. Those are the main drinks of this time period. Water is seen as unhealthy. And certain colonial writers note that many of the colonists get sick from drinking the water here in Virginia. You can see our rushlight has almost burned out. We've talked about how dark these houses can be. Contrary to what you might have seen, candles are pretty expensive in this time, so you wouldn't be burning them often. A rushlight was a much cheaper alternative. Made from a reed dipped in fat or sapwood, you can see it provides a bit of light, but it doesn't last very long. Now, let's head up and see where you would be sleeping. Welcome to the loft. We are standing above the parlor side of the house where we were earlier. Houses of this time often would have lofts on the second or even third story. People could stay here, there could be storage, and we see in Virginia it's used to house more colonists. In the 16 teens, most settlers are living in the fort, and so you see a large number of people living in houses like this. We can see for the settlers up here, they don't even have beds. They instead have straw mattresses with wool and blankets on top. Pretty comfortable, but not exactly a bed. We talked a little bit about downstairs, about the lack of privacy, and you see that upstairs as well. Your real only privacy from your fellow colonists would be a locked chest like this. Think carefully what possessions you could lock in such a small space. The final thing I want to note is you might see some weapons in this space. In addition to being a laborer for the company, you're expected to be a soldier as well. And so you can see these colonists have brought in and stored their weapons with them in their sleeping area. Well, I'm now going to try out the mattress, and I'll talk to you all later. Oh, comfortable.
What did you think of our house? Are you ready to join the Virginia Company? Like and comment below, and check out our other social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'll see you all later.
Oh, I'm sorry I spit.